Hello everyone. In this video, we will speak about different types of customer due diligence. We all understand or we would have heard about two type of customer due diligence, which are standard due diligence and enhanced due diligence. However, like different jurisdiction and a lot of bank also use another type of due diligence, which is simplified due diligence. So let's understand all the three in more detail. Now, starting with standard due diligence. Standard due diligence is the process of identifying your customer and making sure they are who they say they are. A bank should not establish banking relationship or carry out any transaction until the identity of customer has been satisfactorily established and verified. Uh, we all understand standard due diligence is performed on all the customer and bases the final risk assessment of a customer. If customer is high risk customer, so this is where we would go ahead and perform enhanced due diligence. So otherwise, for the remaining customer which are low or medium risk, so standard due diligence would be sufficient. So let's also understand the different aspects or attribute of standard due diligence. One would be the data fields that need to be captured. Uh, so I have already spoken a lot about customer due diligence in my another video on customer due diligence. So let's also understand what all data field we capture. So on the current slide, these data field are primarily for non-individual, which we normally say entities. So on a normal due diligence process, we capture name. So it can be their legal name, trading name, and previous name. Legal form of status, whether it's a listed company, whether it's a partnership, or what kind of entity it is. Proof of incorporation. So this is where we capture when that entity is incorporated, which jurisdiction it was incorporated. Permanent address, mailing address, registered address, uh, or a country of operation that need to be captured. Identity of natural person who are authorized to operate the account. So these are authorized signatories and significant controller of these account. Telephone number, official identification number. These can be different registration number or tax identification number. Identity of beneficial owner. Here we would be capturing a natural person who holds equivalent to or over 25% of shareholding. And in case if we couldn't find any individual or natural person holding 25 or more than 25%, we need to find a person who control the business on day-to-day on a day-to-day basis. Then next important data field would be financial situation of the entity. Here we would like to understand what would be the source of income, source of fund, whether the current entity is stable or active and it's not dissolved. Expected use of account, like why the entity would like to open an account and why for on what basis they would be using this account for, whether it's a salary account or receiving a payment from supplier. What is the purpose of this account? Now, once we have received, we also capture documentary evidence, so which are nothing but a copy of the certificate of incorporation, memorandum, article of association, partnership agreement, trust deed, and any other document certifying the existence of the entity. And for established corporate entity, reviewing a copy of financial statement which is audited by independent auditor is also considered as documentary evidence. So apart from documentary evidence, bank also look into non-documentary verification. So here I can review a lot of detail using third-party databases or looking at performing a company search and making sure that entity is in process of being or resolved or terminated. I can also access public corporate register, private databases, or other reliable independent sources. Here, the important aspect is that every bank would create their own valid list of sources. So that would include what kind of sources, independent or government sources, we can look up to. Another way of performing non-documentary verification can be site visit or visiting corporate entity, just to make sure that it's not a shell company and it's not on paper and it really exists. So that's more on standard due diligence. So let's understand what exactly is enhanced due diligence. We already discussed that enhanced due diligence is performed on high risk customer, and there can be multiple factor and circumstances where the risk of money laundering or terrorist financing is higher, and enhanced customer due diligence measure must be taken. So we all understand it's not only one factor that would determine the risk level of our customer. So there are multiple factors. So let's discuss these factors. One would be the customer risk factor. What does that mean? What is the industry of my customer and what exactly or what kind of business they are working on? So if a customer is cash intensive businesses like restaurant business, petrol pump, casinos, so they are always termed as high risk because they have the opportunity to commingle illegal fund with the legal fund, and bring that money into the financial system. So there have been a lot of instances where we have seen all these cash intensive business are of high risk. Ownership structure of a company is complex and unusual. So there can be multiple layers, more than 5 layers or 6 layers of ownership structure. There can be a trust within ownership structure. There can be offshore entity created in tax haven where finding information on the entity and individual would be very difficult. A non-resident customer is where may also bring some kind of risk. We have seen in case of 9/11 attack where people have come to US and then they were involved in terrorist activity, right? companies that have nominee shareholder or shares in bearer form. So all these are the factors which need to be considered. And apart from customer risk factor, there are country factors. For example, countries not having adequate EML or CFT systems, policy guidelines in place. For example, Syria, Iran are few example. Countries subject to sanctions. Again, Syria, Iran can be considered in, for example. Countries having significant level of drug trafficking, corruption, and other criminal activity. Countries providing funding or support for other terrorist activities. Then another attribute to look at would be the product which our customer has applied for. Uh, Private banking, anonymous transaction, or non face-to-face business relationships are some of the example of like risk factor. So in totality, all the three attributes need to be looked at while creating a risk profile of a customer, basis which we would ascertain whether customer is of high risk, medium risk, or low risk. If it's of high risk, then enhanced due diligence would be performed. So let's understand how enhanced due diligence would be different, or what additional attribute need to be captured during enhanced due diligence. So once we have identified a customer is of high risk, beneficial ownership up to 10% need to be identified. In standard due diligence, we look for beneficial ownership up to and up to or more than 25%, but in case of enhanced due diligence, it would be 10%. Identifying information on individual with control over the account. Adverse adverse media check on customer and its associated parties. Source of fund and source of wealth. Description of business operation. The anticipated volume of currency. So that these are the additional few data field that need to be captured when we perform enhanced due diligence. And also we should understand that for high risk customer, the periodicity and the way we look at their transaction would be somehow very different from standard due diligence. For example, normally we perform enhanced due diligence on high risk customer within a period of 6 months to 1 year. However, we look at customer due diligence profile of a medium risk customer in by 2 years, every 2 year, and for low risk customer, the range can be between 5 to 8 years, depending on countries and depending on the bank to bank, depending on bank risk appetite. So now let's understand what is simplified due diligence. So this type of due diligence uh, is applicable when a customer possesses a negligible or low risk of money laundering. Like some of the example of low risk customer would be public companies listed on stock exchange, government owned entities or organization, other regulated entity in a country, or equivalent jurisdiction having effective EML or CFT systems. So it has been seen that a company which is listed on stock exchange uh, are regulated by a different regulator, which may have a stringent guidelines to be for the company to be listed, where they would be disclosing a lot of information about their company, about the individual who are associated, the financials, annual reports, which are audited by independent parties, are some of the requirement, and these information are readily available. So, which also remove any risk or any anonymity from anonymity in knowing the nature of business, and also knowing people who are associated with the business. And similarly, it goes with government-owned entities and other regulated entities in a country. So that's all about three type of due diligence, which we can look at. Thank you so much for your time and your patience. Have a nice day. Take care. Bye.